They call me a monster in the village, the alien girl whispered. Am I really that terrible? The purple sky stretched endlessly above the small village, its stars twinkling faintly even as the sun dipped behind the distant hills. The village was quiet now, the soft hum of alien insects and the rustle of strange, glowing plants filling the air. Life here was simple and careful, shaped by the rules of survival on a world humans had only recently begun to explore. The villagers had learned to coexist with the alien flora and fauna, but still, fear lingered. They were cautious people, wary of anything unusual. At the edge of the village where the forest began, a girl sat alone. She was not like the other villagers. Her skin glowed faintly with a soft bioluminescence, and her eyes reflected the twilight in hues no human had ever seen. Her hair floated lightly around her face, as if moved by an invisible wind. Small markings crawled along her arms and neck, patterns that pulsed softly, lighting up with each breath she took. Her fingers were longer than a human's, tapering into delicate tips, and her movements carried a grace that seemed unnatural, even ethereal. She hugged her knees to her chest, her gaze fixed on the ground, and whispered to herself in a trembling voice, "They call me a monster. Am I really that terrible?" The words were almost lost in the quiet of the evening, but they carried all the weight of a heart broken by fear and loneliness. A few villagers passed by on the dirt path, carrying water or tending to their evening chores. When they saw her, they paused. Some muttered under their breath. "A monster," one said, shaking his head. Another whispered, "She doesn't belong here." Their eyes were wary, filled with a mix of fear and suspicion. The girl flinched at every glance, shrinking further into herself. Farther along the path, a young human traveler named Kale arrived. He had been walking for hours, seeking supplies and shelter before nightfall. His boots crunched softly on the dirt, his cloak swaying gently around him. When he saw the girl, he stopped, his brow furrowing not in fear but in curiosity. Most villagers would avoid her or throw stones, but Kale felt something different. He saw the sadness in her eyes, the hesitation in her movements, and a quiet plea for understanding that went beyond appearances. Kale approached slowly, making sure to appear calm and non-threatening. He lowered his voice to a soft tone. "Hello," he said. "Are you okay?" The girl startled, her glowing eyes widening. She whispered almost inaudibly, "Why are you talking to me?" "Because," Kale replied, smiling gently, "I don't believe you're a monster. I think everyone deserves a chance to be understood." The girl stared at him for a long moment. Her voice trembled as she asked, "But they all call me a monster, even here in the village." "Am I really terrible?" Kale shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "You are not terrible. You're different, yes, but different doesn't mean bad. Different can mean special." For the first time in a long while, the girl felt a flicker of hope. She slowly uncrossed her arms and let herself breathe a little easier. I don't know how to be like everyone else," she admitted. "I try, but it never works. They look at me and they just see a monster." Kale knelt down, lowering himself to her level. "You don't have to be like everyone else," he said. "Being yourself, that's enough. Sometimes the world fears what it doesn't understand. That doesn't make you wrong. It makes you human in a way, and maybe even more." The girl blinked. "Human?" she whispered. "I'm not human." "No," Kale said, smiling, "but you share something humans have. The courage to survive, the kindness to care, and the curiosity to learn. Those things matter more than appearances." For a long moment they sat in silence. The forest around them whispered, and the stars began to shimmer more brightly in the deepening sky. The girl, whose name was Leora, finally spoke again, her voice soft. I've been alone for a long time. Everywhere I go, people run or hide or hurt me." Kale nodded slowly. "I can imagine that, but here, maybe things can be different. Maybe here people can see who you really are if they just give it a chance, but you can't do it alone. You need someone to help them see you differently." Leora hesitated, then nodded slightly. She didn't know if she could trust him, but something about his calm voice, his kind eyes, made her want to try. I would like that, she said quietly. But what if they still hate me? Kale stood and extended his hand. Then we show them who you really are together. Sometimes the hardest battles are the ones fought with patience and courage. Are you willing to try? Leora took a deep breath and placed her hand in his. The warmth of human touch, so different from anything she had known, made her chest ache with a strange mixture of hope and fear. I'll try, she whispered. They walked slowly toward the village together. At first, the villagers froze when they saw her approaching. Whispers ran through the crowd. The monster, she's coming closer. Children clutched their parents' hands, peering from behind doors. But Kale stayed close to Leora, walking with confidence and calm. A few of the braver villagers stepped forward. What are you doing here? One demanded, her voice sharp but not unkind. Kale raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. We mean no harm. She wants to live here peacefully. She is not dangerous. Leora kept her gaze on the ground, feeling the weight of their eyes on her. She felt the sting of every whispered accusation and judgment. But Kale's presence was steady, anchoring her in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. Slowly, a few villagers began to soften. An elderly man, leaning on a cane, spoke. We don't know her, but perhaps we can give her a chance, just a small one for now. Leora looked up, surprised. A small flicker of hope warmed her chest. Thank you, she whispered. I will try not to disappoint you. That night she stayed in the edge of the village, in a small clearing Kale had found for her. The villagers remained wary, but they allowed her to stay. Leora sat under the stars, her glowing skin reflecting the light of the alien moon. She thought about her past, about the world she had fled, and about the endless loneliness she had endured. Kale sat beside her, sharing a small meal. You'll need to rest, he said. Tomorrow is another day, and tomorrow maybe people will start seeing who you really are. I hope so, Leora whispered. I've never had someone see me, not really. Always fear, always running, Kale nodded. Then let tomorrow be different. Humans, we can be stubborn, but we can also be brave. And sometimes we can help others see themselves as they truly are. The two of them sat in silence, the forest around them alive with strange sounds and gentle light. Leora felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, a tiny spark of belonging. It was fragile and small, but it was real. She curled up, letting the warmth of human companionship fill her in a way nothing else had. In the distance, the village slept, unaware of the tiny beginnings of a bond that could change everything. Leora closed her eyes, whispering softly one final thought before sleep claimed her. Maybe I am not terrible. Maybe I just need someone to see me. And for the first time in years, she felt a whisper of hope that the world could be different, that perhaps humans and aliens alike could find understanding, if only they dared to look beyond fear. The night stretched on, and in the quiet, two figures, one human, one alien, sat together at the edge of a village that had yet to understand the true meaning of courage, kindness, and hope. The beginning of something extraordinary had quietly taken root, and neither of them could yet imagine how far it would grow. The morning sun rose slowly over the village, casting a soft golden light over the fields and huts. Birds with feathers that shimmered like crystal sang from the alien trees, their songs mingling with the gentle rustle of leaves. The villagers moved cautiously through the streets, their eyes occasionally darting to the edge of the forest, where the girl, Leora, had spent the night. Her glowing skin caught the first light of dawn, and the faint markings on her arms pulsed softly, like the heartbeat of the forest itself. Leora stretched carefully, feeling the stiffness of sleep in her long limbs. She looked around at the village, her eyes flickering with unease. The villagers were already awake, tending to their chores and crops, their faces filled with cautious suspicion. She had hoped that staying quietly at the edge of the village would make them more accepting, but fear was slow to fade. Even Kale, who had stayed with her the night before, had left early to gather supplies, promising to return. For a long moment, Leora hesitated. She wanted to step into the village, to be part of the life she had only observed from afar, but the whispers of the night still haunted her. "Monster, terrible, dangerous," she repeated silently, shaking her head. She knew that appearances could frighten humans, and she feared that even the villagers who had agreed to let her stay might turn against her once they truly saw her. Kale returned at mid-morning, carrying a small bundle of food and water. He noticed her tense posture and approached with a careful smile. "Good morning," he said softly. "Did you sleep well?" Leora glanced at him, unsure whether to answer. Finally, she nodded. "I slept," she said, "but I hear their thoughts when they look at me. Their fear, it is heavy." Kale sat beside her, offering a piece of bread. "Fear is natural," he said, "but it can be changed. You just need to show them who you really are. Let them see your heart, not your appearance." Leora hesitated, taking the bread with delicate fingers. "And if they do not accept me?" she asked, her voice trembling. "If they turn against me, I will have nowhere to go." Kale's expression softened. "Then we will face that together. Humans are stubborn, but we are brave too. And sometimes we protect what we believe is right, even when others cannot see it." Leora looked at him, a flicker of hope in her glowing eyes. She wanted to believe him, but the fear in her chest was like a shadow that refused to lift. I want to try," she whispered. "But I do not know how." Kale placed a hand on her shoulder. "You do not need to know everything at once. One step at a time is enough. Start small. Help someone in need and let them see your kindness. Humans respect actions more than words." The day began slowly. Leora watched the villagers from the edge of the forest, observing their routines and their cautious interactions. She noticed a small child struggling to carry a bucket of water, its weight almost too much for her tiny arms. Without thinking, Leora stepped forward. Her long fingers gently lifted the bucket, carrying it the rest of the way to the child. The child looked up, eyes wide with surprise. "Thank you," the child whispered. Who are you?" Leora smiled faintly, her glow softening. "I am someone who wants to help," she said. She set the bucket down and stepped back, unsure how the villagers would react. Kale, who had followed her at a distance, nodded approvingly. "See," he whispered, "kindness is understood even if appearances are not." Word of the small act spread quickly. Some villagers whispered in awe, while others muttered with suspicion. "The monster helps the child," one asked incredulously. "Perhaps she is not as dangerous as we thought." But fear did not vanish entirely. A group of villagers gathered near the central square, debating what to do. "We cannot let her stay here," one argued. "She is not one of us. What if she brings trouble?" Another voice, softer but firm, replied. "Or perhaps she is here to teach us something. We have seen what she can do. She helps without asking for anything in return." Leora watched from the edge of the square, her chest tight with anxiety. She had not intended to draw attention to herself, but now every eye seemed fixed on her. She felt the weight of their judgment pressing down on her, and for a moment she wanted to run, to disappear into the forest where no one could find her. Kale stepped beside her, his presence steady and reassuring. "Do not be afraid," he said softly. "You are doing what is right. That is more important than their fear." Encouraged by his words, Leora took a deep breath and approached the villagers. I wish no harm," she said, her voice trembling but clear. "I only want to help. If you will let me, I will do what I can for the village." The villagers fell silent. Some looked doubtful, while others seemed curious. The elder of the village, a man with a long gray beard and kind eyes, stepped forward. "We will watch you," he said. "If you prove that your intentions are good, you may stay. But know this, trust is earned, not given." Leora nodded, her heart pounding. "I understand," she whispered. Over the next few days, she began to learn the rhythms of the village. She helped with small tasks, carrying water, tending to crops, repairing broken tools. Her glowing markings pulsed softly as she worked. And sometimes, when her hands brushed against a plant or a child, the subtle power within her seemed to encourage growth, healing, or calm. The villagers noticed these effects, though some were slow to believe. Crops healed faster than they should, a sick child recovered more quickly than expected, and the village animals, normally skittish around strangers, seemed unusually calm in her presence. Kale watched these events with quiet satisfaction. "They will begin to see you for who you are," he said one evening as they walked along the edge of the forest. "Not as a monster, but as someone who cares." Leora looked at him, unsure whether to believe. "But what if they still fear me?" Kale smiled. "Fear is natural, but actions speak louder than fear. Continue to help, continue to be yourself. That is all you can do." Her days became a pattern of small victories and quiet challenges. She learned the names of the villagers, the layout of the village, and the rhythms of the forest. She even began to teach a few curious children about the strange plants and animals that surrounded them, showing them how to identify safe herbs, how to follow animal tracks, and how to listen to the subtle signs of the forest. With each small act, the villagers' fear began to soften, replaced by cautious curiosity. Some of them, particularly the children, began to approach her without hesitation, asking questions and seeking her guidance. The adults were slower, still wary of her appearance and abilities, but even they could not deny the gentle strength she displayed. One afternoon, a small crisis emerged. A young goat had wandered too close to the edge of a cliff and was trapped on a narrow ledge. The villagers rushed to help, but the ledge was too narrow for them to reach safely. Leora stepped forward, her heart pounding, and extended her hands toward the frightened animal. Her markings glowed softly, and the goat seemed to calm, trusting her in a way it had not trusted any human. Carefully, she guided the goat back to safety. The villagers watched in awe, murmuring among themselves. "Perhaps, perhaps she is not a monster," one said quietly. "Perhaps we judged too quickly." Leora felt a warmth in her chest, a mixture of relief and hope. For the first time, she felt that she might truly belong here, that humans might accept her not despite her differences, but because of them. Kale stood nearby, smiling. "See," he said softly, "every day you show them who you are. That is more powerful than any fear or doubt." As evening fell, Leora walked with Kale to the edge of the village. The sky was painted with shades of purple and orange, and the first stars began to appear. She looked out at the village, feeling a strange mixture of exhaustion and satisfaction. I think they are beginning to trust me," she said softly. "But I am still afraid. What if tomorrow, what if something goes wrong?" Kale placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Then we face it together," he said. "Humans are brave when they need to be, and sometimes we are brave for those who cannot yet be brave themselves. That is what makes us strong." Leora nodded, feeling the weight of his words. She did not fully understand humans, but she was beginning to see the truth in them. They were capable of fear, yes, but also of courage, kindness, and trust. And for the first time, she felt that perhaps she could be part of that world, even if it took time. Night fell and the village grew quiet. Leora curled up at the edge of the forest, her soft glow mingling with the moonlight. She thought about the day, the small victories, the moments of fear, and the spark of hope that had begun to grow within her. Maybe I am not a monster," she whispered to herself. "Maybe I can belong." Kale, nearby, smiled as he watched her. He knew the journey ahead would not be easy. Fear and prejudice could take time to fade, and the villagers would need to see more than small acts to fully accept her. But he also knew something more important. Humans had the power to inspire, to guide, and to believe in what others could become. And Leora, had the potential to become something extraordinary. As the night deepened, the forest hummed with life. The village slept under the alien sky, and a girl who had once been alone and afraid began to find her place among humans who were capable of courage, kindness, and understanding. The first steps of trust had been taken, and the story of Leora and the village was only just beginning. The days passed, and Leora slowly became a part of the village life. She still stayed at the edge of the forest, but her presence was no longer a source of constant fear. Children approached her freely now, laughing as she showed them how to track the movements of small alien animals, how to identify glowing herbs, and how to listen to the whispers of the wind through the trees. Her soft glow seemed to bring comfort, and her gentle voice reassured even the most anxious of villagers. But not everyone had embraced her. Some adults remained wary, their eyes narrowing whenever she came near. They whispered among themselves, debating whether her presence was safe. "I cannot trust her," one man said to his neighbor as they repaired a fence. "What if she brings disaster upon us? How do we know her powers are not dangerous?" The neighbor shrugged. "She has helped many already. She healed the sick child, saved the goat, yet you still speak of fear. Perhaps it is your fear, not hers, that causes worry." These murmurs reached Leora's ears, though she tried not to let them weigh on her. Still, every whisper reminded her of the words she had heard too many times before: monster, terrible, dangerous. She kept her head down as she worked, but inside the fear lingered. Kale noticed her tension and stayed close. He had begun to take on the role of a mentor and protector, guiding her in how to navigate human customs and expectations. "Do not let their fear control you," he advised one afternoon. "Your actions will speak louder than their doubts. Show them who you are with patience and courage." "I try," Leora whispered, "but I worry one mistake and they will turn against me." Kale placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Mistakes happen. Humans forgive those who are honest and brave. You are both." That afternoon, a real test of courage came unexpectedly. A small fire broke out at the edge of the village, likely from a spark falling into dry grass. The flames spread quickly, carried by a sudden gust of wind. Panic spread among the villagers. Shouts echoed through the streets as families tried to protect their homes and livestock. Leora froze for a moment, her heart racing. She had never caused harm intentionally, and she feared that this fire would be seen as her doing. But Kale's voice broke through her fear. "You can help, do not hesitate." Taking a deep breath, she focused. Her markings pulsed with a soft, steady light, and she stretched out her hands toward the flames. To the villagers' astonishment, the fire seemed to slow where she gestured, almost as if it hesitated in her presence. With careful precision, she guided the remaining flames toward a bare patch of earth, and the fire died down, leaving the village unharmed. The villagers stared in awe and fear. Some whispered nervously, "She controls fire, is she truly safe?" Others, particularly those who had witnessed her previous acts of kindness, spoke quietly, "She saved us, she prevented disaster." Kale stepped forward, addressing the crowd. "Do not fear what you do not understand," he said firmly. "She did not start the fire. She saved us from it. Courage and intelligence are powerful tools, and she has both." Leora lowered her gaze, feeling a mixture of relief and embarrassment. She had helped, but the tension in the air was still heavy. She had hoped that small acts of kindness alone would convince the villagers, but she realized that fear and mistrust were more persistent than she had imagined. Over the next few days, she continued to prove herself, quietly helping with daily tasks and showing the villagers her abilities in small, harmless ways. She healed minor injuries, guided lost animals back to their pens, and even assisted in harvesting crops more efficiently. Slowly, the villagers began to see her as someone useful and kind, rather than a threat. But peace was not meant to last. One night, a new danger arrived, one the villagers had never encountered before. Strange sounds echoed from the forest, growls and heavy footsteps that shook the ground. Shadows moved between the trees, and the villagers' panic was immediate. The children were pulled inside, and families barred their doors. Even those who had begun to trust Leora looked to her with fear and uncertainty. Kale stood by her side, his hand resting lightly on hers. "This is our chance to show them the strength we share." he said quietly. "We must protect the village together." Leora's glowing markings brightened as she nodded. Fear still churned inside her, but she also felt determination. She had come too far to hide now. She would not run, not this time. The creature emerged from the forest, a massive predator unlike anything the villagers had ever seen. Its body was covered in thick, dark scales, and its eyes glowed with a feral intelligence. It moved with surprising speed and power, and its growls sent shivers down the villagers' spines. Some of the braver villagers grabbed whatever weapons they had, spears, tools, and makeshift clubs, and stood in front of their homes. "We will fight," one shouted. "We will not let this creature harm us." Leora stepped forward. "Stand back," she said softly, her voice carrying a calm authority. "I can help guide it away." Kale nodded, understanding her plan. He rallied the villagers who remained, whispering instructions. "Use your tools and traps," he said, "but follow her lead, trust her instincts." The predator advanced and chaos erupted. Villagers shouted and ran, trying to protect themselves and their animals. Leora's markings glowed brighter, casting soft light across the scene. She focused, manipulating the light and shadows to create illusions, confusing the predator. She guided it toward a narrow ravine where it could not harm the village. The villagers watched in amazement as Leora moved with precision and courage, her powers amplifying their own efforts. Some villagers laid down nets and ropes, others used their tools to direct the creature's movements. Together, guided by Leora's abilities and Kale's leadership, they corralled the predator away from homes and livestock. Finally, the creature was driven back into the deeper forest, its growls fading into the night. The villagers stood in silence, catching their breath and staring at the girl who had led them to safety. Fear and awe mingled in their eyes. Kale stepped forward, addressing the crowd. "See what she has done," he said. "She did not act alone, but she guided us." Courage is not the absence of fear, it is action in spite of it. She saved us all. For the first time, Leora felt a surge of belonging. The villagers who had feared her now looked at her with respect. Some, particularly the children, ran forward to thank her, their faces lit with admiration rather than suspicion. The elder of the village approached, his long gray beard catching the moonlight. "You have shown bravery beyond what many humans could manage," he said, his voice steady. "You are no longer a stranger here. You are part of our village." Leora blinked, overwhelmed. I am, really?" she asked softly. "Yes," the elder replied. "You have proven that strength and courage are not measured by appearance but by deeds and heart. You have earned your place among us." Tears welled in Leora's eyes, but she blinked them away. She had spent so long fearing rejection, so long believing herself to be a monster. And now she was part of something larger, something she had never imagined she could belong to. Kale smiled at her from nearby. "See," he said quietly, "humans are brave, yes, but we also know when to recognize the bravery of others. Today, you have shown both courage and heart. That is something no one can deny." Over the next few days, the village began to adjust to the reality of Leora's presence. Her powers, once feared, were now respected. The villagers began seeking her guidance, asking her to help with planting, healing, and navigating the forest. Children followed her everywhere, eager to learn from her wisdom. Even the adults, slowly but surely, began to accept her as part of their community. Leora, however, remained humble. She understood that acceptance was a journey, not a single moment. She continued to help, quietly and diligently, proving through her actions that she was not a threat but an ally. Kale watched her with quiet pride. "You have done well," he said one evening as they walked along the forest path. "But remember, trust and understanding are built slowly. Today was a victory, yes, but the journey continues." Leora nodded, feeling the weight of his words. She had learned something important, not just about humans but about herself. Courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. And kindness, patience, and perseverance could change hearts in ways that power alone never could. That night, she sat at the edge of the village, looking out at the stars. Her glow mingled with the moonlight, casting a soft radiance over the clearing. She thought about the predator, the fear, and the courage that had united humans and alien alike. And she realized something that had been hidden deep inside her all along. She was not a monster. She was capable of bravery, compassion, and understanding. She was capable of belonging. Kale joined her, handing her a small cup of water. "Rest," he said gently. "Tomorrow is another day and there will be more challenges. But you have proven today that you can face them and that humans can rise to the occasion too." Leora took a sip, her heart swelling with a quiet determination. I will keep trying," she said softly. "I will not hide anymore. I want to help, to belong, to be part of this world." Kale nodded, smiling. "That is all anyone can ask. And trust me, humans, even flawed as we are, can recognize those who have courage and heart. You are one of them." The forest hummed around them, alive with sounds and whispers. The village slept peacefully, unaware of the extraordinary bond that had formed between a girl who had once been alone and the humans who had dared to trust her. In that quiet night, a new chapter began, a chapter of courage, understanding, and the slow but steady growth of trust. For Leora, the journey was far from over, but she had taken her first true steps toward acceptance, friendship, and the knowledge that even in a world of fear, humans could inspire hope and bravery. And that was a lesson she would carry with her, no matter what challenges lay ahead. The village woke to a quiet morning, the sun spilling gold and pink light over the fields and huts. Birds with translucent wings fluttered among the glowing trees, and the air was filled with the gentle hum of life. After the recent events with the forest predator, a cautious optimism hung in the village. The villagers had seen Leora's bravery firsthand, and though some were still wary, most had begun to trust her in small ways. Leora herself had grown more confident. Her glow was steadier now, her movements more relaxed. She had begun helping with tasks that once seemed intimidating, repairing homes, helping with heavy work, and even assisting with minor medical needs. The villagers no longer avoided her. Many had begun to seek her guidance. Children followed her like apprentices, eager to learn about the world she came from, while adults watched closely, curious and respectful. Kale approached her early in the morning, carrying a small satchel of tools and supplies. "The villagers are planning to expand the irrigation for the fields today," he said. "They asked if you could help them manage the process." Leora nodded. "I can help," she said softly. She had learned to accept tasks without hesitation now, trusting that her abilities were not a danger, but a gift she could use to support others. When they arrived at the fields, a group of villagers gathered around, preparing to dig channels for water to reach the farthest crops. Some were hesitant, still wary of Leora's glowing hands and unusual appearance, but Kale reassured them. "Follow her instructions," he said quietly. "She knows what to do, and she will help us all succeed." Leora took a deep breath and focused. She guided the villagers in digging the channels, using her subtle abilities to sense where the water would flow best. As she moved, her glow pulsed gently, and the villagers noticed that the soil seemed to respond to her guidance. Small stones rolled aside on their own, roots lifted gently without damage, and the channels formed quickly and efficiently. The villagers watched in amazement. "She makes it easier," one man whispered. "The work, it is faster than we could have done alone." A woman nodded. "Perhaps she is truly here to help. Perhaps we judged too quickly." Leora's heart lifted at the words, but she did not allow herself to feel fully safe yet. She knew that fear could return at any moment, and she had to remain careful and respectful. As the day wore on, the villagers began to talk more openly with her. Some asked questions about her home world, about the strange markings on her skin, and about the abilities she possessed. Leora answered patiently, sharing only what she felt safe revealing. She had learned that knowledge could build trust, but too much too soon might provoke fear. By midday, the irrigation system was nearly complete, and the villagers were beginning to relax. Children laughed as water flowed into the channels, watching it ripple across the fields. Even some of the previously suspicious adults smiled, impressed by the efficiency of the work. Then, without warning, the ground trembled. A low, rumbling growl echoed through the village, and the air seemed to shift. The villagers froze, fear flashing in their eyes. Some grabbed tools or weapons, while others pulled children close and retreated to their homes. Leora stepped forward instinctively, her glow brightening as she focused. Kale placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her. "Stay calm," he said. "We can handle this." From the edge of the forest emerged a group of creatures unlike anything the villagers had seen. They were smaller than the predator from before but moved in coordinated packs, their eyes glinting with intelligence and curiosity. Their movements were quick and precise, and their low growls made the villagers hesitate, unsure whether to fight or flee. One of the villagers, a young man named Jaren, raised a spear. "We must defend ourselves," he shouted. "They will destroy our crops, our homes." Kale shook his head. "Wait," he said firmly. "Let's see what they want first. Sometimes fear makes us act rashly. Leora, can you—" He paused, realizing what he hoped. "Can you communicate with them?" Leora nodded, her glow intensifying. She had learned a little about the creatures from observing them in the forest, and she had discovered that her subtle abilities could influence their behavior. She stepped forward slowly, holding her hands out in a gesture of peace. The creatures paused, their eyes fixed on her light. A hush fell over the village. Villagers watched, tense and uncertain, as Leora focused on calming the creatures. Her glow pulsed rhythmically, and a strange sense of peace seemed to emanate from her. The creatures lowered their heads slightly, their aggressive movements slowing. Kale addressed the villagers. "Do not act rashly. Let her guide them. Trust her." Leora spoke softly, using her voice in a way that the creatures seemed to understand. Though they could not comprehend her words, the tone and calmness carried meaning. Slowly, the creatures backed away from the village and moved toward the forest, guided by her subtle influence. The villagers exhaled in relief. Some clapped, others nodded in silent respect. Jaren, still holding his spear, lowered it cautiously. I see now," he said, his voice hesitant. "She is not a monster. She protects us, even when danger comes." The elder stepped forward, his face thoughtful. "Leora," he said, "you have shown us courage, wisdom, and restraint. You have saved us once more, and you have taught us something important. That strength is not always visible, and bravery is not measured by size or appearance." Leora felt tears prick her eyes. For so long she had feared rejection, feared that her presence would bring only harm. But now she was beginning to see that she could belong, that humans could recognize the value of heart and courage beyond appearances. Kale smiled, proud of her progress. "You have done well," he said softly. "The villagers are learning, and you are learning too. Courage and patience can change minds faster than fear ever could." Over the next few days, the village began to settle into a new rhythm. Leora continued to help with daily tasks, guiding irrigation, assisting in harvest, and teaching children how to navigate the forest safely. Her glow became a familiar and comforting presence, a symbol of safety and wisdom. Some villagers, particularly those who had been most skeptical, began to approach her with questions and requests. They asked for her advice on farming, on animal care, and even on minor injuries. Leora answered patiently, sharing her knowledge and skills while respecting human customs. Despite the progress, not all fear had vanished. Leora still felt the weight of doubt in some villagers' eyes, and she knew that trust was fragile. A single mistake, a single misunderstanding, could undo everything she had worked for. But she also knew that she had allies, Kale, the elder, and the growing number of villagers who had come to see her for who she truly was. One evening, as the village settled for the night, Kale and Leora walked along the edge of the forest. The sky was painted in shades of purple and orange, and the first stars began to shine. "You have grown stronger," Kale said. "Not just in your abilities, but in your confidence. The villagers trust you more now, and they are beginning to see your heart." Leora nodded, her glow soft and steady. "I am still afraid," she admitted. "There are still those who doubt me." What if something goes wrong?" Kale placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Then we face it together," he said. "Humans are brave, yes, but we are also resilient. We make mistakes, we learn, and we grow stronger. You are learning that too. And together we can face any challenge." Leora smiled faintly, feeling the truth in his words. She had faced fear before, loneliness, rejection, danger, and she had survived. She had learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. And she had discovered that humans, for all their flaws and fears, could inspire hope and bravery in ways she had never imagined. That night, she sat quietly at the edge of the village, her glow mingling with the soft light of the moon. She thought about the days that had passed, the small victories, the moments of doubt, and the growing trust of the villagers. She realized that she had come far, but the journey was not over. Trust and acceptance were built slowly, through patience, understanding, and consistent kindness. She whispered to herself, "I am not a monster. I am capable of courage, of kindness, of belonging." Kale joined her, handing her a small cup of water. "Rest," he said gently. "Tomorrow is another day, and tomorrow you will continue to show them what you are capable of." Leora nodded, feeling a quiet determination. She had learned that strength was not measured by power alone, but by heart, patience, and the willingness to act for the good of others. She had learned that humans could be brave, and that humans could teach others to be brave as well. The forest hummed softly around them. The village slept under the alien sky, and a girl who had once been alone and feared now began to understand her place in a community that was learning to trust her. The bonds of courage, empathy, and understanding had grown stronger, and the story of Leora and the humans was moving forward, one step at a time. And though challenges still lay ahead, one truth was clear. Leora was no longer alone, and the humans around her had begun to see the extraordinary potential in someone they once feared. Together, they were building a future where courage, kindness, and trust could overcome fear, and where even the most unlikely allies could become heroes. The morning sun rose gently over the village, spilling golden light across the fields, huts, and glowing trees. The air was calm, carrying the soft hum of life and the distant cries of alien birds. Leora stood at the edge of the forest, her glowing markings pulsing softly in rhythm with her breathing. She had grown accustomed to the village life, and though she had faced fear, doubt, and mistrust, she now felt a steady sense of belonging that she had never known before. Kale approached, carrying a small satchel of supplies. "Good morning," he said, smiling warmly. "The villagers are preparing for the harvest festival. They want you to join them." Leora hesitated. Festivals were strange to her, filled with laughter, music, and close human contact, all of which she had once feared. But Kale's encouraging smile reminded her of how far she had come. I, I would like to try," she said softly. The village square had been decorated with colorful fabrics, woven alien plants, and fragrant flowers. Tables were laid with food harvested from the fields, and children ran about playing games, their laughter echoing across the clearing. The villagers had invited Leora to participate, not as a stranger, but as one of them. When she stepped into the square, many villagers paused, some in surprise, some in quiet respect. They had watched her over the weeks, seen her courage, her kindness, and her gentle heart. The fear that had once shadowed their thoughts was now mixed with admiration. The elder approached her, his gray beard catching the morning light. "Leora," he said, his voice steady and warm, Today you are not a visitor nor a stranger. You are a part of this village, and we are grateful for your presence and the courage you have shown." Leora's glow brightened slightly, a reflection of the joy and pride swelling in her chest. "Thank you," she whispered. I never expected to feel so welcomed." Kale stepped beside her. "You have earned it," he said quietly, "by your actions, your kindness, and your bravery. Humans recognize courage when they see it, and you have shown plenty." As the festival began, Leora participated in the preparations. She helped arrange flowers, assisted in cooking meals, and even taught a few of the children to weave small glowing patterns into the decorations using their own hands and materials from the forest. The villagers watched in awe as she guided the children patiently, her soft voice calm and encouraging. During the festival, music filled the air. Strange instruments made of wood, metal, and alien crystal created a melody that was both familiar and otherworldly. Leora listened, her heart swelling with a new emotion, a sense of joy she had almost forgotten existed. She laughed quietly at the children's games and joined in when they asked her to participate, her glowing hands creating patterns of light that danced along with the music. Some villagers still whispered among themselves, unsure of what to make of her glow and abilities. But those whispers were quieter now, replaced by smiles, curiosity, and admiration. Even Jaren, the man who had once doubted her courage, approached her with a tentative smile. "You've changed the village," he said quietly. "We were wrong to fear you. You've shown us that strength can come in many forms." Leora blinked, surprised. I only wanted to help," she said softly. "I did not expect this." Kale placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "That is the nature of courage," he said. "It changes not only the one who acts, but also those who witness it. You've shown humans, and perhaps yourself, that bravery and kindness matter more than fear." As the festival continued, a sudden commotion erupted near the edge of the village. A young child had wandered too close to the forest and was now being approached by a small, curious alien creature. The child froze, fear flashing in their eyes, while the creature tilted its head, seemingly unsure of what to do. Leora moved instantly. Her glow brightened as she approached, speaking softly in tones that calmed both the child and the creature. She extended a hand, her fingers glowing gently, and the creature stepped back cautiously before retreating into the forest. The villagers who had witnessed the event erupted in quiet applause and murmurs of approval. "She saved the child," one whispered. "She protects us, even in moments we cannot anticipate." The elder nodded. "It is not power alone that defines a protector, but heart and courage. Leora embodies both. Today, she has reminded us why trust and understanding matter." As evening fell, the festival transitioned into a celebration of community. Villagers shared meals, music filled the air, and children played games that twisted and turned among the glowing trees. Leora moved among them, helping where she could, sharing laughter and teaching small lessons about the forest and its creatures. For the first time, she felt that she belonged completely, that the village had accepted her not despite her differences, but because of them. Kale observed her quietly from a distance, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. "Humans can inspire trust and courage," he whispered to himself. "And sometimes we are reminded that understanding others can make the world stronger." Leora has shown us that even the most unlikely allies can teach us these lessons. As the night deepened, the villagers began to gather around a central fire. The elder raised his hands, calling for quiet. "Tonight," he said, "we celebrate not only the harvest but the bravery, kindness, and courage that have protected us. Let this night be a reminder that strength comes in many forms and that the heart can be mightier than fear." The villagers cheered softly, and Leora felt a warmth in her chest unlike anything she had ever known. She looked around at the faces of the people she had once feared would hate her, and now they smiled, laughed, and welcomed her presence. Kale approached her, smiling. "You have come a long way," he said. You faced fear, doubt, and mistrust, and yet here you are, accepted, respected, and valued. You have shown the village the power of heart, and you have shown yourself the power you hold. Leora's glow pulsed with quiet joy. I never thought I could feel like this, she whispered. I feared rejection for so long, I feared that I would always be alone. Kale nodded. Fear is natural, he said, but courage, kindness, and perseverance can overcome it. You have proven that today. And more importantly, you have taught the humans around you to be brave, to be understanding, and to see beyond appearances. That is a lesson worth more than any reward. As the villagers sang, danced, and shared stories around the fire, Leora felt a sense of peace she had never known. She realized that being different was not a curse, but a gift. Her abilities, her knowledge, and even her unusual appearance had allowed her to connect with the humans in ways she could not have imagined. She had faced fear, earned trust, and now had a community that recognized her worth. Later that night, as the festival wound down and villagers returned to their homes, Leora sat quietly with Kale at the edge of the forest. The sky was dark now, the stars glittering above, and the forest hummed softly in the night. I never thought I would belong anywhere, she said softly. But now I feel that I have a place, a home. Kale nodded. You do, he said. And remember, belonging is not given. It is earned through patience, courage, and kindness. You have earned it, Leora. Every step of the way. Leora smiled, her glowing markings pulsing softly. I think I understand now, she said. Being brave does not mean never feeling fear. It means acting even when you are afraid. And kindness can change hearts, even when it seems impossible. Kale placed a gentle hand on hers. Exactly, he said. Humans are capable of great courage, yes, but we are also capable of inspiring courage in others. You have seen that firsthand, and now you are part of it all. For a long moment they sat together in quiet companionship. The forest whispered around them, the stars shone above, and the village slept peacefully under the soft glow of the moon. Leora realized that the journey that had begun with fear and loneliness had led her to something extraordinary, a place where she was accepted, respected, and valued for who she truly was. She whispered softly, almost to herself, I am not a monster. I am capable of courage, of kindness, and I belong. Kale smiled, watching her glow softly in the moonlight. And that, Leora, is the truth. You have shown us all that bravery, heart, and trust can overcome fear. Humans and aliens alike can learn from each other, and together we can create something greater than any one of us alone. As the night deepened, the village settled into quiet rest. The stars above seemed brighter than ever, reflecting the hope and courage that had grown within the hearts of both humans and Leora. The journey was far from over. There would be challenges ahead, dangers to face, and lessons to learn. But she now knew one truth that would guide her forever. Courage, kindness, and understanding could forge bonds stronger than fear, and even the most unlikely ally could become a hero. Leora closed her eyes, her glow soft and steady, and whispered one final thought before sleep claimed her. Perhaps I am not terrible. Perhaps I am exactly who I am meant to be. And in the quiet of that peaceful night, at the edge of the forest and in the heart of the village, a girl who had once been feared as a monster finally found a home. A place where humans recognized her courage, celebrated her kindness, and embraced her as one of their own. And in that acceptance, both Leora and the village discovered the extraordinary power of empathy, bravery, and hope.